Hello everyone. It is a great privilege to introduce you to one of the most profound schools of thought in philosophy, idealism. In this session, we will explore its essence, its origins and its impact on human thought. Idealism is a philosophical school of thought that upholds the supremacy of spirituality over material existence. According to idealism, the spiritual or mental world is eternal, permanent, orderly, regular, and universal, whereas the physical world is transitory, perishable, and an illusion. Many great thinkers have supported this school of thought. Among the Western philosophers, notable figures include Socrates, Plato, Descartes, Spinoza, Berkeley, Kant, Fichte, and Hegel. Plato, one of the earliest proponents of idealism, expounded this philosophy about 400 BC in his famous work, The Republic, asserting that the supreme power governing the universe is idea. In India, idealism found strong resonance among prominent philosophers such as Swami Vivekananda, Sri Aurobindo, and Mahatma Gandhi. Their teachings and philosophies reflect the core principles of idealism, emphasizing the eternal nature of truth, the supremacy of the spiritual world, and the significance of human consciousness. Friends, idealism is a philosophical perspective that places the realm of ideas, values, and consciousness above the material world. It has significantly influenced both Western and Indian thought, shaping the way we perceive reality, knowledge, and existence. Now, let us be familiar with the basic concepts underlying the idealism schools of thought. There are some important principles of idealism. Let us talk about it. First principle is the world has two forms. One is the spiritual world and another is the material world. According to the idealist school of thought, reality is composed of two distinct forms, the spiritual world and the material world. This principle emphasizes the supremacy of the spiritual world over the material world. So why does idealism emphasizes the spiritual world? This is the questions. You need answers. Friends, idealists believe that in order to truly understand the mind, soul, and the consciousness, one must first comprehend the spiritual reality that governs existence. Unlike materialists who argue that the physical world is the ultimate reality, idealist asserts that the material world is secondary and derives its existence from the spiritual realm. For example, consider Plato's theory of forms, which posits that everything in the physical world is merely an imperfect copy of an ideal, unchanging reality that exists beyond human perception. Similarly, Immanuel Kant argued that our knowledge of the world is shaped by our mind's interpretation rather than the world itself. So if we see the implication of these principles in understanding human existence, then we find idealists believe that true education is not merely about acquiring facts, but about developing wisdom and moral character. They argue that learning should focus on uncovering higher truth rather than simply understanding the material aspects of life. Like that, since spiritual world is deemed superior, ethical values, moral reasoning, self-disciplines become essential in leading a meaningful life. Idealist advocates that the society's moral foundation is derived from spiritual and philosophical ideals. On the other hand, idealists suggest that our perceptions are shaped by our consciousness, implying that individuals play an active role in shaping their understanding of the universe. Another principle of idealism is principle of primacy of human being over nature. In idealism, human being is considered central to existence. This is because, unlike other elements of nature, human beings possesses unique intellectual and creative abilities. Can think, they can imagine, they can reflect, and they make a sense of the world around them. This ability to reason and discriminate between right and wrong, between reality and illusion, sets humans apart from the rest of the nature. R.R. Rux beautifully captures this idea when he states the spiritual or cultural environment is an environment of man's making. It is a product of man's creative activity. This means that human beings do not merely exist within nature, rather they shape and transform it. Through their thoughts, emotions, and actions, they contribute to the development of art, literature, science, and philosophy, forming a very foundation of civilization. For example, consider how simple a tree in nature remains just a tree until a human mind perceives its potential. For example, for a sculptor might see a masterpiece within the wood, a scientist might study its biological structure, and a poet might find inspiration in its beauty. So this creative engagement with the world is what idealism emphasizes. Human beings do not passively experience a reality, they actively interpret and redefine it. That's idealism upholds the supremacy of the human consciousness. It teaches us that knowledge is not just a collection of facts about nature, but a deeper realization of truth shaped by human intellect and creativity. This understanding is what drives progressive, encourages culture, and elevates human existence beyond mere survival. Another principle is ideas are important than object. The central tenet of idealism asserts that reality is fundamentally mental and knowledge is derived primarily through ideas rather than physical entities. This perspective is deeply rooted in the belief that the human mind and the soul can only comprehend the world through ideas. Material objects, according to idealist thinkers, are secondary in the grand scheme of existence as they derive their meaning and significance from the conceptual realm. As I have told, Plato, one of the earliest and most influential idealist philosophers, eloquently articulates this thought in his theory of forms. He states that ideas are of the ultimate cosmic significance. They are rather essences or archetypes which gives form to the cosmos. This means that ideas are not a mere mental construct, but eternal and unchanging realities that shape and govern the physical world. Similarly, when we think justice, beauty, or truth, we are not referring to mere physical manifestation, but to their ideal and absolute essence. According to Plato, the cosmos itself derives its structure and order from these eternal ideas. Now, if we see the relevance of all this thought in modern world, then we find that even today, the idea that concepts and ideals holds more significance than material objects find application in various disciplines. In case of education, the foundation of education is based on imparting knowledge and ideas rather than simply focusing on physical tools. Books, classrooms, and digital platforms are mediums, but the core purpose is to cultivate higher thinking and wisdom. And in respect of ethics and morality, ethical values such as justice, honesty, and compassion are not merely physical objects, but ideas that shape societies and human interactions. Scientific progress is driven by the ideas and the hypotheses. Innovations emerges from abstract thought before materializing into practical application. Like that technology or maybe latest artificial intelligence, the rapid advancement in AI is fueled by conceptual framework and algorithms, ideas that transform the digital landscape. So we conclude that the idealist perspective upholds the ideas from the essence of reality. While the material world may be transient, ideas remain eternal and unchanging, guiding human understanding and progress. Friends, if we look into the essence of idealism, we find a fundamental philosophical doctrines that has shaped the intellectual and spiritual tradition of the world. Idealism, as a school of thought, proposes that the ultimate reality is not material, but mental or spiritual. This perspective offers profound significance into the nature of existence, knowledge, and truth. Now, let us see how the principles of idealism interprets reality as a manifestation of spirit or consciousness. Idealism, at its core, asserts that reality is fundamentally mental or spiritual. This means that everything we perceive as material or physical is, in essence, a projection of manifestation of deeper, non-material reality. The physical world, as we experience it, is considered transient and secondary to the ultimate truth, which is the absolute, the self, or a universal spirit. This idea stands in contrast to materialism, which claims that reality consists solely of physical matter. Unlike materialism, idealism emphasizes that consciousness, ideas, or the mind precedes and shape the material world. The universality of one ultimate reality. This is another important tenet of idealism, which believes in one absolute or ultimate reality. According to idealist philosophers, this reality is not fragmented into individuals, isolated objects, but is unified as a single self-sustaining existence. It is often described as the absolute, the universal spirit, or simply the self. Philosophers like Plato, Kant, Hegel, and Indian thinkers such as Shankaracharya have emphasized that the material world is an illusion or maya, a mere reflection of higher spiritual reality. According to idealist thought, the material world is not an independent entity, but a projection or expression of the spirit. This means that everything we see, touch, and experience in the physical domain originates from and is sustained by an underlying spiritual essence. Our sensory perceptions may give us an impression or materiality, but idealism suggests that these experiences are shaped by the mind and its interpretation. This perspective has significant implication for now how we understand the knowledge and truth. If reality is ultimately mental, then acquiring knowledge is not merely about observing external phenomena, but about introspection and deeper realization of the self. This is why idealist traditions often emphasizes education, wisdom, and self-awareness as pathways to ultimate truth. To summarize this discussion, idealism presents a profound vision of reality, one where the physical world is secondary to the mental or spiritual realm. It upholds the beliefs in a universal, absolute reality and views the material world as a transient and manifestation. By focusing on supremacy of consciousness and ideas, idealism has deeply influenced education, metaphysics, and spiritual thought across cultures. One of the key assertions of idealist philosophy is that the material world is transient and perishable, as we have been taught. The object we see, thus experience, undergo constant transformation. For example, mountains erode, civilizations rise and fall, and even human body is subject to decay. This impermanence suggests that the physical world is not the ultimate reality, but rather a reflection of something deeper. In contrast to the material world, idealism asserts that the spirit or consciousness is eternal. This belief is prevalent in various philosophical and religious traditions. For instance, in Vedanta philosophy, the concept of Atma, the individual soul, is considered immortal and part of the Brahmana, the universal spirit. Like that, thinkers Immanuel Kant emphasizes the role of human consciousness in shaping reality. He argued that the mind actively constructs our experience of the world, meaning that reality is not just something we passively perceive, but something deeply influenced by our cognition and understanding. Another important emphasis of idealism is that primacy of ideals and values over matter. Idealism upholds that the world of ideas and values is far more significant than the physical world. Ethical principles like truth, justice, and beauty are not subject to decay like material objects. These ideals exist beyond time and space, guiding human civilization throughout the history. For instance, the idea of justice remains unchanged even if legal systems evolve. Similarly, artistic expression like poetry, music, and literature transcends generations, preserving the ideals and values of different cultures. On the other hand, idealism believes in ultimate reality, and according to idealist thought, is not found in physical existence but in the realm of eternal truth, ideas, and values. This belief is central to many spiritual and philosophical traditions worldwide. In the world of Indian philosophers, Sri Aurobindo, the true knowledge is not in the senses but in the soul. This implies that true understanding doesn't come from mere sensory perception, but from an inner realization of eternal truth. Similarly, German idealist Hegel proposed that reality is shaped by an unfolding of absolute spirit, where human history is a progression towards a higher realization of truth and reason. Another important focus of idealism is man as a spiritual being. Idealism holds that man is fundamentally a spiritual being. Unlike materialistic philosophies that view human existence primarily in physical or biological terms, idealism asserts that the true essence of a person lies in their spirit or soul. From ancient scriptures to modern philosophical discourses, the belief that human beings possesses an immortal soul is a recurring theme. In Indian philosophy, the concept of Atma, the eternal self, is central to this understanding. Similarly, in Western thought, philosophers like Plato and Kant have emphasized the supremacy of reason and moral consciousness which arise from the spiritual dimensions of human existence. So, spirituality, in this sense, is not merely a religious belief, but an acknowledgement of the deeper dimension of human existence, our capacity for wisdom, moral reasoning, creativity, and transcendence. It is this spiritual nature that distinguishes human beings from other forms of life and enable them to strive for truth, goodness, and beauty. A central tenet of idealism is that the human spirit alone has the ability to control environment. This idea suggests that external reality is not an independent force governing human actions. Rather, it is the human mind and willpower that shape the world. We see this reflected in the works of great visionaries and leaders throughout the history. Whether it was Mahatma Gandhi's principles of non-violence resistance, whether it is Albert Einstein's groundbreaking theories, or Swami Vivekananda's teachings of self-realization, all of them exemplified the power of human consciousness in shaping their surroundings. Idealist thinkers across cultures have long upheld the belief that human beings are the noblest creation of God. This is because humans alone possesses the faculties of reason, self-awareness, moral discernment, and spiritual longing. Religious and philosophical traditions affirm these notions in various ways. In Hinduism, the concept of Purushottama, the supreme human being, indicates that man has the potential to attain the divine wisdom. Christianity also speaks of humanity being created in the image and likeness of God, highlighting human dignity and moral responsibility. Similarly, perspective can be found in Islamic, Buddhist, and other philosophical traditions that emphasizes the uniqueness of human existence. Idealists believe that with great privilege comes great responsibility. If human beings are the noblest creation, then they must act with wisdom, justice, and benevolence. Education, according to idealism, plays a crucial role in cultivating this nobility. It is through knowledge, ethical conduct, and self-discipline that individuals fulfills their higher purpose. So, we want to conclude this particular videos with our concluding remark that idealism presents a vision of human existence that is deeply spiritual, intellectually profound, and morally uplifting. It reminds us that we are not merely physical beings, but carriers of a higher consciousness. Our spirit has the power to shape our reality, and as the noblest creation of God, we have the duty to seek truth, cultivate virtue, and contribution to the betterment of the society. So thank you very much. We are looking forward to our next session.